In this video, I'll be showing my approaches to soldering SMD using hot air and by hand. These are just my ways of doing it. They are not the ways of doing it. My recommendation is to try everything you see and find what works for you. In order to do this, we'll be building this kit. Kits are a great way to learn. Link is in the description and pinned in the comments. This is everything that comes with the kit. Our sizes are going to range from 0402 to 1206. And it's just a fun little LED kit which will rotate the LED light around and around. It really doesn't serve any specific purpose other than that, but great practice. One interesting thing to note about this board is the critical area is actually the center. That's where the actual circuit is. The rest of this is just practice. So all this stuff is meaningless. On the back, it has a size chart for components, as well as traces, and a few chip packages. First complication is we definitely don't have the 1K resistors that they're talking about. The closest I have are 750 ohm at the right quantity. I think we'll start with the critical areas. I just want to make sure we get the right values in the critical areas first. I do highly recommend you download the instructions, though they aren't very clear, especially if they don't give you the right parts. We'll start at R65, but in order to start soldering, we must turn on our equipment. And while I turn on my equipment, let me throw up my expected temperatures for this project. These temperatures are brought to you by the associate links in the description. If you go to my video description and click on one of these links and buy any of this equipment, a small portion of that purchase will go to supporting the channel. And I greatly appreciate you. It won't cost you an extra dime. Grab one of our resistors that is the closest in value that I could find in the kit. It's either get as close as 750 ohms or it's going to be like 5K. So this is going to be approach number one. For approach number one, we're just going to add a little bit of solder to one pad. Grab our parts. We're going to wet that solder again, and we're going to place our parts. Flip it around, and then we'll add some solder to the other pad, like so. That's probably one of the easiest hand soldering methods for me. We'll move over to this other one. Now I'm not adding flux to this. You shouldn't need flux if your solder has flux core in it for this type of project. You'll probably need it for repairing devices more often than putting together a kit. I'm going to show this one again. Tin one pad. Grab the part with our tweezer. We're going to wet that pad. Place the part. Flip to a comfortable position. Heat that pad. Place our solder. Beautiful. Very nice fillet. Another method you can do, just add some solder to your tip. This only works if you have pads this big. Solder one. We definitely need some flux on that joint, so we'll add some more. Oops. Don't want a tombstone. As you can see, this is not the best method. This is why I prefer the other approach. You can also tin both pads. And you can get it down there eventually. It's a little hard to get it straight sometimes, but it does work and it's fully functional. We're going to use our first method for the rest of these. Just tin your one pad. Metal joint, place the part. Metal joint, place the part. Metal joint, place your part. I will use this method if it is available on a repairer. Rarely do we have this type of pad size though. I'm going to tin the other pad on this one, and I will show you a hot air method that I do use on repairs. If I can tack down one side for the repair. We come in with low airflow, but with the surface tension, our part shouldn't go anywhere. We probably need to add flux on this part. Bring in our hot air. The surface tension holding the one side should keep it in place so we don't blow it away. And allow us to flow in the other side, like so. You'll often see me use this method on a Nintendo Switch, like a fuse. Hot air is completely unnecessary for this job, but when you're doing repair, it's going to be your primary tool. And now I'll just go in and solder the other sides. Everybody soldered nicely. I'm going to jump ahead to these guys. We will hand solder and hot air solder these in. I'm not going to cover identifying parts in this video. There are a million videos out there about that. A million videos by much more qualified individuals like Dave Jones. So again, I'm going to tin one pad, the center one up here. It really doesn't matter which one you do. Basically using the same method, we're going to wet that pad and place our part. We can adjust from there. Add some solder to our other legs. Like so. Next one, we're going to tin all three, and we're going to use hot air. Now I'm going to do the same sort of method. I'm going to tack this one down. If you can get one leg tacked down, and you should be able to do this in a lot of repairs too. Bring your hot air in. Flow the rest of them in. Like so. Excellent. We'll tin all these, and we'll do my typical hot swap method for chips. We'll grab our chip in proper orientation, and we're going to wet these pads. We're looking for all three to wet. I'm using a low airflow here, so I'm going to have to be a little bit more patient than normal. But you can use a high airflow for this method. You're holding the part. And we'll just place the part. That's a typical method for repair. You'll see me use that on QFN type chips, diodes, 3-pin diodes like these, some ports, and various other things. We'll just hand solder this last one. So again, wet the pad, place the part. Solder the legs. Actually, we're going to hot air one of these, and I'll show you that that method works on the components as well. The hot swap method. For hot air, flux is almost always required. Grab our part, and I will use this technique often as well in repair. And wet our pads. So usually I'll be coming in at full airflow. Place your part. Done. Hand solder this one. And solder the rest of these. That'll work. On the big chip, I'll show you the hot swap method, and on the small chip, we'll hand solder. For the hot swap, we're going to tin all the pads. Add a little bit of flux. Need our pin 1 and the proper orientation. And this time I'm going to use full airflow, because we have a lot more area we need to wet. Wet every pad. Then replace the part. And done. And go through, check every pin. And every pin is solid. Excellent. For the 555, we'll just tin one pad. And just like the capacitors, we're going to wet this pad. We're going to place our part. And he's in place. And now we can just go pin by pin. Solid. We're going to prep for the LEDs. I will be hand soldering all the LEDs. It's something to know. The LEDs can be quite sensitive to heat, so if you can hand solder them, that's the preferable way to go. You will have jobs where you have to hot air them, and you'll have to come up with an approach for that. The hot swap method is also an alternative. Resistor in the wrong place. Now we get to learn how to remove a resistor without hot air. And get both sides to heat up at the same time. And get that resistor off there. Why didn't y'all tell me? Rude. The instruction booklet has distinct markings for negative on these. It doesn't matter what orientation you put LEDs in. I'm, however, going to assume that this strong line is the negative because they don't have a plus minus like they do in the instruction manual. Now we need to finish soldering them. Pro tip, don't send all your parts flying. It complicates assembly. A little. And diodes next. Same method on these. Now to make sure orientation is correct on these diodes as well. Black mark is negative. I want the black mark pointing towards the arrow, I believe. Should be everything required for making this circuit functional. Everything else on the sides is practice. However, I will show you that what I'm telling you is possible with an 0402 as well. We'll solder one pad, grab our parts, and wet that pad. Place the part. Like so. You can also do the hot air method of just tacking down one side. Usually you're working in a tight space, it's really hard to wick. One part tacked down, and you hot air in, and come in full airflow. And solder them in. You can also hot swap them. You have to have a pretty good hand and not fling it off with your tweezers. I don't usually recommend this method, but it is possible. Another hot air method, and one you'll see used a lot, even on these small parts. So just get it close. Turn your airflow way down. We're going 20%. Just keep it close to that solder width. You have to be patient with the lower airflow. And we'll just kind of suck it in. Everything's repeatable. The 0201s are a little bit more challenging, admittedly. But if you have a steady enough hand, you can use similar methods. Let's see if our device here is going to work. Grab a couple wires. Moment of truth. Pretty cool. Blinky. Anyone notice what I did wrong? Post it in the comments. I'm totally not redoing it. If you got value out of this video, I think you'll get value out of this one. And I'll see you there. Until then, peace, love, and solder wig.